This is Dr. Rob Harder with the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast, Making Your World Better. What does it take to be an effective nonprofit leader today? What are the biggest challenges? What are the biggest obstacles? How should nonprofits fundraise in an economy that is constantly changing? All of these reasons combined led me to start this show. And it's my hope that through this series, people can learn not only what it takes to be an effective nonprofit organization, but to hear from effective leaders who are successfully making a positive impact in their communities. We hope you enjoy the show as together we hear how they are making their world better. This podcast is sponsored by DonorBox. DonorBox, helping you help others with the best donation forms in the business. When most of us think about Amazon, we most likely think of Amazon Prime and the plethora of movie options, or getting great products like that new air filter that comes with same-day shipping. But do you think about social impact when you think of Amazon? My guess is that many of you do not know that Amazon Web Services provides a whole host of technology tools to help your nonprofit go further, faster. Well, my guest today is Allyson Fryhoff. She's the Managing Director of Nonprofit and Nonprofit Health at AWS. She will share about how AWS is providing cloud solutions that will help you as a nonprofit leader with your fundraising, donor engagement, and donor retention. I also want to say thank you to all those who are listening. It continues to inspire me how this podcast is growing in more countries and gaining more listeners. Now, one request I do have. Many of you know that ratings and reviews for podcasts really can make a difference and help spread the word about this podcast to more leaders just like you. And so I would love it if you'd be willing to write up a review and or give me a rating. In fact, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to give a gift card to the next rating or review in the next 7 days from the publication of this episode. All you have to do is just fill out the rating and review, take a picture of it, and email it to me at nonprofitleadershippodcast@gmail.com. Again, just fill out a rating and or review on any of the podcast platforms, take a picture of it, and then email it to me again at nonprofitleadershippodcast@gmail.com. And I'll send a gift card to the first picture I receive. All right, well, thanks in advance. Now on to the show. Well, Allyson, it's great to have you on the show today. And today I want to introduce my audience to the Amazon Web Services new tech action. In fact, as we said before the show, maybe you can just give a real quick background to Amazon Web Services to make sure my listeners understand all that you offer. But also, again, we're going to specify, of course, the tech action program. And as I understand it, this new program supports U.S. nonprofits by helping them build fundraising and donor and member engagement solutions on AWS. So let's talk about this. Tell us more what Tech Action is all about and how does it apply to local nonprofits?
Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm so thrilled to be here to be able to talk about AWS and AWS Tech Action. So for any of the uninitiated, Amazon Web Services, AWS nonprofits is here to help all nonprofits to be able to adopt cloud computing to accelerate their mission and their mission outcomes. So that's overall what we do. And we are so thrilled about AWS Tech Action. It is a new program that we're offering, and it offers a package of capabilities to nonprofits. $5,000 in AWS computing credits and support that will help nonprofits to build, in particular, fundraising and donor and member engagement solutions on AWS. The program is composed of 3 main components. So these computing credits, but also, and importantly, enablement content, trainings and white papers, and 3, a global community of fellow AWS builders. And maybe I'll take a second to talk about why we're focusing on donor engagement, member engagement, or what we sometimes think of as a customer or consumer experience, because we have seen that this is key to staying relevant for so many of the nonprofits that we work with. And being able to manage all of the interactions an individual may have through each physical and digital touch point in order to deliver these personalized services that we've all come to expect as consumers. And so organizations really need to effectively connect and communicate with prospective and current donors and members. And we have a number of solutions we can talk about, but more than anything, Tech Action is about the innovation for organizations so that they can go a lot further faster. And I really want to emphasize that training component if I can, because it is our goal at AWS to help nonprofits to reskill and upskill their employees. And AWS overall is committed to providing cloud computing skills and training to 29 million people by 2025.
Wow, that's a lot.
29 million, and we're ahead of our goal. So we believe we're going to get there. And that's just so many programs in addition to Tech Action, but things like the AWS Skill Builder or the free training that AWS offers. So we're really excited about offering this complete package as part of Tech Action. So credits, training, and then the global community of AWS builders. And I really encourage all of your listeners to join that community.
No, well said. And 29 million, that's impressive. And the fact you're ahead of your goal is fantastic. So congratulations. Well done. Well, I've had a lot of guests recently on the show that have talked all about current trends in fundraising. And there's definitely been a decline in the number of donors giving to nonprofits. In fact, you've cited that according to a recent report from the Association of Fundraising Professionals and Giving Tuesday, that basically confirms this fact. And then when you add the increase in costs, of course, everything's going up in price, the shifting economic climate, and now many people are calling the Great Resignation, or there's different names for it, the Great Reshuffle. So there's different names, but bottom line, there's a lot of movement going on. There's a lot of pressure. I believe that nonprofits are faced with extremely high pressure, I think, when it comes to fundraising and recruitment and retention that comes along with that. So what is AWS seeking to do to help come alongside nonprofits and alleviate these pressures, specifically when it comes to fundraising?
Yeah, so we've obviously all seen some of the changes that have happened over the last couple of years due to the pandemic, and what some of the standard nonprofit fundraising techniques were just not available. And so at AWS, we're so inspired by all the work that nonprofits are doing to address the world's most pressing challenges. And we recognize that fundraising is vital for nonprofits' ability to achieve their mission. And many nonprofits had to very, very quickly adapt to going digital. And then that's what we are seeing will be that thread over the long term. That is, if there's any goodness that came out of the past couple of years of the pandemic, that's really helped to accelerate that drive to digital. And it's why we continue to build on this history that we have of supporting nonprofits, which we've done for more than 15 years. And this launch of Tech Action, again, particularly around fundraising, we want to provide nonprofits with the resources to build cloud solutions, digital solutions that will help with the fundraising and donor and member engagement efforts. So we break that down in a couple of ways. Number one, for nonprofits to really unify their data, break down those data silos. So many of the nonprofits that I speak to, that's one of the key issues, that everyone is trying to do their best. Everyone is doing great work, but a lot of times they don't have that complete picture of a donor and the engagement that they have. So enabling to kind of centralize that information, and then to be able to apply intelligent analytics and even machine learning to that centralized data to really be able to generate those actionable insights that we all hear about, smarter engagement decisions, and then empower the organization to really personalize the messaging. I know this is going to sound trite, but it is so important. Sending the right message to the right user via the right channel at the right time. And the way to do that at scale is through technology. And AWS, we're committed to making sure that we are putting together solutions for fundraisers to be able to use to do that.
No, well said. And so it sounds like you really are emphasizing the technology opportunities, the digital opportunities for nonprofits to really maximize what they're doing with fundraising and create efficiencies in their organization so they can reach more people and do it more effectively.
Absolutely. And I'll make the point that when we look at the overall experience, it's also being able to track those personal physical interactions as well. So as some of the other fundraising efforts come back that are more personal in person, you want to make sure we're capturing those as well. And those go into that holistic view of a donor and what they may be able to do. So many organizations are collecting this valuable data, but they're not always using it to support their decision making. And we want them to be able to make these more informed decisions, because everyone, especially nonprofits, has to work more effectively and efficiently. And so it's so important to be able to have that data for use by the people who need it the most. Aggregate it, visualize that information. We're finding visualization to be so incredibly important so you can make decisions faster. And we want them to be able to use really streamlined tools. For instance, Amazon QuickSight is one that's a business intelligence service, easy to set up, easy to use, to help gain those powerful insights. So really excited about being able to use some of those capabilities. And if I could, just a couple others like AWS, Amazon Personalized to create real-time personalized user experiences faster and at scale. Amazon Pinpoint, which is a multi-channel marketing communication services. All of these services allow organizations to communicate with donors as individuals to understand their touch points, their preferred way to be contacted, how much they're engaging with you as an organization, and understanding their donor amount so that you can make sure that you're laddering them up, but you're doing it in a way that feels very personal to them. And so super excited about some of those capabilities along with Amazon SageMaker, which is an easy to use machine learning service. So you could identify individuals that are more likely to engage and give, and competency partners that help you pull all of that together. Some of our partners that help with implementation. So again, all of these services together, which you can find on the AWS Solutions Library for nonprofits, can help really increase those fundraising efforts and drive that social change.
Love this. And I do want to get to in just a second about how do we balance the high tech with the high touch approach. But before that, I want to clarify a few things because you have offered so many different things. And what I've researched a bit on your website is you're really seeking to simplify the donor member engagement data analytics by building a single system of records, as I understand it, really for donor data from multiple sources. So then you can help organizations build dashboards essentially in order to measure trend lines. Is that correct with the different things you're offering?
You've got it. You're spot on, and maybe even more, because the simplification is always something that we think about. As a matter of fact, one of our leadership principles at Amazon and AWS is to invent and simplify. And so you'll see that a lot from us. And simplifying the data analytics, we truly believe will help nonprofit organizations answer those questions about their donors and members. Who are they? What motivates them? Which campaigns really encourage them to donate in the past? Which ones didn't? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less? And so for many organizations, this information all lives in separate systems, sometimes on Excel spreadsheets, sometimes it's in your CRM data, sometimes it's in your wealth management data, sometimes it's frankly on people's separate personal computers. And so the idea is truly to bring that all together to make it easy to pull that data in, which we've done a lot of work on helping to make sure that we can connect information from different sources and then look for those capabilities for your teams. Use that data to make these decisions and to get to people in the right way. That's what we all, right? We don't want all of this spam. We want someone to speak to us personally. And we're doing that through dashboards for looking at trends, through the AWS data lake. So we really see an uptake in all of our nonprofits that are starting to move in this direction to think about a data lake, which is bringing in lots of disparate information, structured, unstructured data, and then being able to unify that and use these artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence and machine learning services against that. And then tech action, to get back to tech action, really encourages organizations to take those services, but then innovate. And we are constantly learning from and being inspired by all of our customers and all of the nonprofits that continue to innovate. And that's what tech action is about. Take it to the next step.
We'll be right back. Are you looking for an easy and effective way to boost your nonprofit's donations? Look no further than DonorBox, the online fundraising platform that streamlines your fundraising efforts, maximizes donations, and simplifies giving for your supporters. With DonorBox, you can create beautiful donation forms, accept digital wallet payments, track donations, and send auto receipts. And the best part? There are no setup or monthly fees and no long-term contracts required. So what are you waiting for? Visit donorbox.org today to get started. That is donorbox.org. Hey friends, thanks so much for listening to the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast. I wanted to let you know that I've recently become a professionally certified coach. With my nearly 30 years of nonprofit experience, I know firsthand how hard leaders work. I also know how important it is to have someone you can call on to get help with the barriers and leadership challenges you will face both professionally and personally. I really want people to thrive and become all they were meant to become by providing coaching and consulting services. If coaching is something you've always been interested in, but weren't quite sure what it was all about, I encourage you to reach out. You can go to my website, robharder.com, or just email me at rob@robharder.com. I would be happy to provide a free sample coaching session so you can determine if coaching is for you. Thanks again for listening. Now back to the show. Well said. And donor retention, right? It's absolutely critical for all nonprofits. AWS seeks to really help nonprofits by leveraging predictive insights, as you've been mentioning, for donor retention. How do you do that exactly? And you've already kind of mentioned a few things, but maybe you could break down a little bit more. How does it work when it comes specifically to donor retention?
And thank you, because retention is incredibly important. And we all know that the effort that it takes to bring on a new donor and then being able to retain them over time is critically important to everyone's. And first of all, how do you measure your retention? So do you really know which of your donors are new donors? How long have you retained them for? What are your retention rates? Actually, I was just having a conversation last week at our reInvent conference with someone about that retention number is something that they're trying to get a handle on. And this is what we talked about. We talked about, okay, let's look at donor over time. Let's look at using the AWS database services, our machine learning services, our prediction services, that you can start to really look at those behaviors and use the data to truly understand the influencing factors for you and your organization. And then we hope that through that organizations will be able to adjust their strategies to truly increase donor acquisition, but then engagement, which leads to the retention.
Excellent. No, I love that. And I think you provide database and storage services to predict really which of their donors are likely to give, let their giving lapse, and also just to better understand the influencing factors. So it sounds like you really do analyze a lot of different factors. For the end result, you know exactly what the donor activity is and the likelihood of them potentially lapsing in their giving. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. You said it wonderfully. And so exactly right that once you can bring all of your data together and centralize that data, you have to secure it. You have to give access to the right people. But then you can really start to apply these intelligent analytics and machine learning so that you can really enable those smarter engagement decisions. If I am really focused on if I'm an environmental organization, a particular area of the world or a particular animal, you need to know about that. You need to make sure that I know that. If it's within health and human services, in what area do I prefer to think about locally giving or more nationally giving? And so all of these nuances are things that your data can tell you if you ask it the right questions. And that's what, again, simplifying, being able to ask those right questions through our machine learning services, which makes it very, very simple to teach your data what you need, what you are going to ask them, and to teach your people as well. And again, that comes back to the skilling that we talked about. How do we make sure that everyone has that opportunity to upskill and reskill and learn how to use data, which is so much a part of our world today?
Well, as we talk about all these wonderful technology tools, essentially, always the question in the background is how do we balance this move to being more high tech, because that creates a lot of efficiencies and you could save money and be more effective at what we've talked about, whether it be donor retention or other things. But at the same time, you mentioned it earlier, people that we're serving, the community, our donors, don't want to completely lose touch. And so the term often is called high touch. How do you balance high tech on the one hand and high touch on the other? And nonprofits, I think particularly, are vulnerable if they lose that personal touch with their community, with their donors, with the people that support them, with their volunteers, certainly. So how do you seek to balance that? Because I know you're really thriving at AWS with the tech side. How do you also bring in that high touch side?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, because it is so very, very important. I would answer two ways. The first is that our goal is through technology to allow all of those that are using that technology to make it easier for them, to make it simplified for them so that they have more time to spend on the high touch. So if you're not spending all of your time trying to find that information, who do I need to call next? What did they give before? What else have they been doing with our organization? What is their overall engagement? If I have to spend the time looking at 12 different places to find that information, that's so much less time that I have to actually reach out and have a conversation or know that person better. And so our efforts are around technology to really help augment that high touch experience. So that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is that technology can help you have create those personalized experiences at scale. So while you are trying to get to so many of your donors, new donors, retained donors, engage them, the way to do that at scale is through technology as well. And so I see both of those things being incredibly important to those balance. So help me have that personalized experience at scale. So I believe that you're writing in an email or in a blog post just to me, and give me more time to have those true high touch experiences. So that's our goal.
I like it. Just to reiterate, so it sounds like what your goal is by creating these efficiencies through the tech tools, you're essentially giving nonprofit leaders, development directors, CEOs more time to interact with their donors. And then secondly, you're able to create an opportunity where they can actually scale their efforts to reach more and more people. Is that what you pretty much focus on?
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you so much.
No, it's great. I love that. Well, and I think that is so important, right? Multiple times, I think one of the biggest complaints, if you will, for nonprofit leaders is they don't have enough time in the day to do all the things they want or to connect with as many donors as they'd like. So creating more efficiencies will allow that. And particularly when it comes to scaling your organization, so important. So excellent. Well, another thing I want to mention is AWS created the Imagine Grant Awards. In fact, as I understand it, you're in your 5th year now. Well, you will select a group of nonprofits and you offer up to $150,000 in unrestricted cash funding. So the grant is open, as I understand it, to registered 501c3s, nonprofit organizations in the US that are using technology to solve the world's most pressing issues. So why did AWS create this grant award? And tell me about some of the past awards and award winners.
Well, thank you. We are so thrilled to be able to offer the Imagine Grant program. And our goal is exactly as you said, to provide support for nonprofits that are pursuing their goals utilizing technology. And so the missions of the organizations that were chosen this year and were just announced at our reInvent last week, it seems so long ago, but it was just last week, range from equitable housing and alleviating poverty to affordable cancer treatments and archiving historic materials. And one of those recipients was the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. They are going to be doing some donor and member engagement work as well. And they're leveraging a data warehouse and a data lake and AI and ML technology to develop a multifaceted view of their constituent data. And we're hoping this will enable them and enable the organization to expand and personalize their donor outreach. And so that's an exciting project for them and for us to be tracking and to see, again, the innovations that they're bringing. And then previous winners of Imagine Grant are using AWS to eliminate barriers to food security and improve maternal health outcomes. So our Imagine Grant is in 2 parts. One is momentum to modernize. So those are some of the basic foundational things that nonprofits need to do to get into that digital world and to utilize cloud technology. And then we have the go further faster, which are kind of the next level of innovation. And we'll be opening up that grant cycle again early next year. So I'd love for everyone to watch for that, to look at our website on the Imagine Grant program, to look at previous winners, and really to join us for our Imagine conference coming up in March. So all of that information can be found on our website.
Excellent. So once it opens back up next year, sounds like it's open to anyone essentially, and they can just check out to see what they could qualify for. And then it sounds like it's a pretty self-explanatory process of how to submit your grant.
Absolutely. It's a pretty easy application. We do ask some questions, obviously, and we're really looking for those innovation utilizing cloud technology. Obviously, the grant is not only unrestricted funds, but credits of AWS technology, and those credits can be used towards your AWS compute, storage, et cetera, and other services bills. And so it's a wraparound program as well as sometimes implementation help. So it's not just about the unrestricted funds, it's also about those credits to get started with AWS or go further faster with AWS services and cloud technology, as well as getting that support around how do you implement, how do you utilize best practices.
Well, I love that. I love the phrase, helping leaders move further, faster. That's a great phrase. So thank you for what you're doing. And by recognizing these nonprofit organizations, what a great example, and what maybe it'll spur on some other creative ideas. So for my listeners, how can people find out a little bit more about you, more about AWS, and specifically about the Tech Action?
Well, we'd love for everyone to go to the AWS nonprofit website. And frankly, the easiest way is just to Google AWS nonprofits, and it'll take you right there to that AWS website. We're thrilled with being able to offer content around these different areas that we talked about today, but also other areas around how to utilize cloud technology to further mission goals. That is our entire focus. We always say at AWS that our customer's mission is our mission. And I hope your listeners are inspired to learn about how they can leverage that technology, accelerate their mission. We're always here to help. You'll see information about solutions, programs, offering grant opportunities, but also, again, going to that tech action community where you can connect with others is also incredibly important. And we will see that community growing and growing as more and more people come to that and provide their learnings. And that's a place to share best practices as well. And connect with me on LinkedIn. Be thrilled to have those connections and to have you reach out to me. The last thing would be our public sector blog, where we often talk about these new programs that are being made available to nonprofits. So connect with me and you'll see some of the information on those blogs as well.
Well, Allyson, thank you. Thanks for all you're doing on behalf of the nonprofit sector. Thanks also for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your insights as well. We're thrilled to be a part of the conversation.
Hey, friends. Well, I wanted you to know that this podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and wherever you listen to other podcasts. I also want to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with others. This will actually help us get this great content out to more nonprofit leaders just like you. You can also join the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast community. Find other resources and interviews of past guests all on my website, nonprofitleadershippodcast.org. Well, thanks again for listening. And until next time, keep making your world better.